But no, didn't need to. Could have just walked in and got it. But I hate Costco. I hate Costco so goddamn much. I can't even properly describe it. It's just like a fucking zoo.
Yeah.
But there was one really funny thing that did happen is that, Katie wanted some Costco pizza.
I hate their pizza.
I
think it's gotten worse. Like, it used to be decent pizza for the price, and now it's like just the same quality as if you bought like a Safeway brand frozen pizza.
think it's better than that, but it's not like better than anything I would get anywhere else.
Yeah, I think it's gotten worse.
Like, if I want what my mom calls kids pizza, I'll go to fucking Mountain Mike's or Pizza Guys.
Okay.
Not to insult Mountain Mike's or Pizza Guys.
They're way better than...
No, that's what I'm saying, is if I want that kind of pizza, I'll go to there, you know? But it was really funny. There's this incident that is just like such a microcosm of people at Costco on Saturday. Is we were sitting down and there's a couple sitting like next to us, and the wife gets up and goes to do something, I don't know. And some guy walks up and he's like, "Oh, can I sit here?" And the dude is like, "No, my wife is sitting there." And the guy points at it and goes, yeah. The guy's like, no, my wife is sitting there. And the dude just sits.
Why ask then?
I don't know. I mean, Katie says that it was loud. She thinks that there's like a miscommunication there. Or, maybe he was just having like one of those moments where your head is just firmly planted in your butt. And he did realize, oh no, he didn't realize anything. Katie and I finished and got up and I was like, you can have our seats. We're leaving. It was funny.
I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick before we
start. No, we're already recording.
I know, I'm sorry.
All right.
I'm just like, I'm going to have to, sorry.
I'm going to leave that in.
That's fine.
Do.
Okay.
Yeah, no worries. When you gotta go, you gotta go, Okay. So, welcome to the Streaming Screams podcast. I am Glenn. I am here with Jess.
Hello.
And we are going to talk about some horror movies. Today, we've got a bit of a special episode. We are recording it shortly after the trailer for Maxxxine dropped. And because Maxxxine looks goddamn awesome.
It does. Looks great.
We decided to go ahead and do X and Pearl together. So, starting with X from 2022. Written and directed by Ty West, featuring Mia Goth in a dual role, first as Maxxxine, our final girl, a headstrong, free-spirited, and self-assured stripper who hopes to find fame through the adult film industry and loves cocaine. And also Mia Goth as Pearl, a deranged elderly woman who is bitter that she never lived a life of glamour outside of the farm, wants to be loved and lusted over, and despises the fact that she is now old and ugly.
Interestingly, when this movie first came out, the actress for Pearl was not listed. It wasn't listed on the credits, and it wasn't listed on IMDb.
Oh, dude, I didn't realize that it was her until the sex scene in the barn.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh shit, that's her.
I knew, like I said, I could tell it was, I was like, it looks like somebody in old person makeup.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize it was her. But they at first didn't say at all. They waited until like more people figured it out. But it's just interesting it wasn't listed.
Yeah.
But that's also a clue. It's like, why is this main character not listed?
Yeah. We've also got Brittany Snow as Bobby Lynn Parker, another free-spirited stripper and aspiring porn star. She has a creative streak and is rather snarky. She describes her relationship with Jackson as sometimes being his girlfriend. Owen Campbell as R.J. Nichols, the writer and director of The Farmer's Daughter. He seems to consider himself an artiste and thinks he can make a truly great pornographic film, which will lead to bigger and better projects. He is not as free-spirited as the rest of the group, but pretends to be in order to further his goals. Jenna Ortega, who has blown up since, as Lorraine Day, a.k.a. Church Mouse, RJ's shy, reserved, and repressed girlfriend and filming assistant. She begins to experience a sexual awakening as she spends time on the shoot and gets to know the crew. We have also got Kid Cudi as Jackson Hole, the man with the best name in the movie, Vietnam veteran and tracker who's starring in The Farmer's Daughter. He's cocky and generally good-natured, and also cocky. if you know what I mean.
And I think you do.
And I think you do. We've got Martin Henderson as Wayne, Maxxine's boyfriend and pornographic film producer. Like the others, he is free-spirited, but he's also kind of a macho man's man type. To him, this is business. We've got Stephen Ure as, I think it's Uri, I don't know. Stephen Ure as Howard, Pearl's loving and protective husband who will do anything for her, including hiding her bodies, killing her witnesses, risking his own life for her happiness, and helping to keep some sex slaves in the basement.
Sometimes you gotta do it.
Yep. And we've got Simon Prast as the televangelist. James Galen as Sheriff Dentler. There's a lot of characters in this movie, considering how, kind of small it is.
Sure.
Also, a person of crew that I feel the need to note. The music in this movie is done by Tyler Bates and Chelsea Wolfe. I personally am kind of in love with Chelsea Wolfe. She is an absolutely amazing artist. I got to see her recently, and she's so goddamn good. There was one song where the lighting on the band kind of died away, and it was just her playing guitar and singing. And she was so goddamn mesmerizing that when the lights came back up and the band joined in again, both myself and John, our friend who was with us, both myself and John were like, "Oh shit, there's a band." we had forgotten that there was something else going on besides just her on stage.
Nice.
They both took a really cool approach to this music, and I'll talk about it more later. But
has she done another soundtrack?
I don't believe so.
Yeah, I wonder how she got involved with Ty West.
I have a suspicion. Well, I'll just talk about the music right now. So
we're here.
Might as well. Tyler Bates, I have a suspicion that he reached out to her, and I don't have any reason to think that other than given the type of movie this is, I think that so Tyler Bates does a lot of film scores.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him.
He's great at it. You've seen a million movies that he has done the scores for.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to scores usually unless it's like Trent or something.
Yeah. I have a suspicion that he reached out to her because given the type of movie that this is, it's that sort of 70s grindhousey kind of thing. I think that he wanted to sort of replicate the kind of scores that were used in a lot of those movies where you have female vocals that are doing intonations and sounds more than just singing. And she does a lot of that. Yeah. So my guess is that he reached out to her specifically for that. Or maybe Ty West was like, hey, it'd be cool if Chelsea Wolfe was on this because she's a brilliant artist. But yeah, then the rest of the music is also just really good. I think that this is kind of a masterpiece of film score, not just because of the vocal intonations and the creative use of Chelsea Wolfe's voice, but Tyler Bates just does some really perfect things for this. There's one scene that really stands out to me where Mia Goth's character, Maxxine, is taking a dip in a little lake that she's not familiar with, and an alligator is coming at her, and she doesn't realize that. And there is this rhythmic, intense, low-pitched, almost kind of drum sound, but not really. As the alligator is getting closer, the sound evolves and more layers come in, and there starts to develop a high-pitched pluck to it. Mm-hmm. And right as she escapes without even realizing that the alligator was coming after her. And as she gets out of the lake, they cut to another scene where the porn is being filmed, where they're doing a sex scene. And as that cut happens, the shift in the sound is just so perfect that when the scene itself changes, you realize that the sound that you were hearing, that rhythmic sound, is a porn style wah guitar. No. and the transition between intense scary music and sexy sleazy music is so seamless. And so, I actually rewound this scene several times just for this music, because I was like, how did he make that work so perfectly? That shouldn't have worked, but it really, really did. And it's excellent. Yeah, well, my hat's off to Tyler Bates and Chelsea Wolfe for fucking killing it on this film score.
That's just an interesting thing for the sound too, because Ty West has said that this movie is about making movies, but he didn't want to make it about making a horror movie because he didn't want it to be too meta, which I appreciate because I'm over all the meta shit in movies.
Which is funny because he does have these moments where it gets super meta.
Well, right.
But he's restrained with them.
So he did porn because porn and horror have such a similar backstory. They're both like, especially in the 70s, they both had a big boom, or late 70s, early 80s, both had a really big boom because of VHS and like camcorders and that like almost anyone can make a movie.
Yeah.
And they're both really on the outskirts. So he purposely he's like, I wanted to make a movie that was about making movies that would make you aware of how a movie was made. Cause it's like, I think a lot of times when you're watching something, you get pulled out of that.
Yeah.
And so using porn as a juxtaposition to horror, it's just interesting that you're like, oh, made music that is horror and then like just juxtapose it to like porn music.
Yeah. And so seamlessly. Like
it must have been a discussion.
I mean, I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
You know, you got to work closely with the director, but either way, this is one of my favorite film scores, I think,
Was it released as a soundtrack?
Yeah. I don't have it yet, but I'm going to get it because it's killer.
Yeah.
And
just not all are, so.
If I remember correctly, it is released technically as a Chelsea Wolfe album.
Oh.
But I could be wrong, and that could just be like the way I was looking at it in Spotify or something. But yeah, I am going to get that on vinyl because it's pretty goddamn amazing.
Nice.
All right. 1979. Sheriff Dentler arrives on a rural Texas farm and begins his initial investigation of what appears to be a horrific massacre. He also sees a preacher on TV before another officer tells him to come take a look at the basement where we don't see what they find, but apparently it's pretty shocking. 24 hours earlier. You know, this framing device is so funny to me. I don't know why it's in there, except Sheriff Dentler adds this feel of cool to things.
You mean the whole police thing?
Yeah. I don't think that the opener or closer where we see like the cop investigation really adds much.
I think it's a homage to like other horror movies, like even Texas Chainsaw and stuff, because even how like the opening scene, you think it's at a different God, I keep forgetting what they call that.
Aspect ratio.
Yes, I don't know why I always forget what it's called, but it looks like it's at a different aspect ratio because it looks like it's cut off on the sides, but then they pull back and it's really just we're looking through barn doors. So it's supposed to be like, I think setting it up like a lot of 70s movies do have that like police like finding bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I also think that it's one of those few moments where he really indulges himself in ultra meta moments. Because the last line of the movie is clearly a comment on the movie itself, and in a way, kind of patting himself on the back for it.
Sure.
But like, unlike the self-masturbation scene in Inglourious Bastards, where he's like, I think this is gonna be my masterpiece.
Sure.
I think this one is great. And like I said, like, while I don't think the framing device adds much to the movie itself, the sheriff just has this air of cool about him. And I appreciate his character, even though he's functionally useless.
It also sets you up for like, oh, what the fuck is going on? Because when they're like, Sheriff, you got to take a look at this. and then it goes to, that's just like, all right, what are we in for?
Yeah. Speaking of which, 24 hours earlier, Maxxxine gives herself a pep talk and does some coke before Bobby Lynn, Jackson, RJ, Wayne, Lorraine, and herself all take a trip to film a porn called The Farmer's Daughter. Super original. This is how you know that RJ is going to make a great piece of art. It's on a farm and is called The Farmer's Daughter. They stop at a gas. I'm gonna end up talking so much shit about RJ. That character just like he's a great character,
sure,
but he is infinitely punchable.
Yeah.
They stop at a gas.
Like everyone in this movie is pretty likable. Some people will say he, in some senses, is likable, but he's the most unlikable.
Yeah.
Even like including murderers.
Right. Well, because he's kind of he's kind of a poser and kind of manipulative.
Yeah.
And, you know, and he thinks really highly of himself, and he kind of thinks that he's better than everybody.
Sure.
But we will get into that. So they stop at a gas station to fill up on essentials and film a little B-roll. RJ is immediately shown up by Bobby Lynn, who gives him some really good creative directing advice. And we also find out that Lorraine is not comfortable on this shoot and did not know that they were filming porn.
Right.
Strike one, RJ. The group arrives at the farm owned by Howard. There is a scene actually between these two things that I haven't quite figured out the point of yet. What is the the whole car accident with the cow. Do you know the point of that scene?
Yeah, as far
like what I'm missing there?
Yeah, so as far as I know, it's just that there's a lot of like foreshadowing of murders, and that's a foreshadowing of RJ's murder.
Oh, how does RJ get killed? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. That makes sense. So the group arrives at a farm owned by Howard and Pearl. Howard seems annoyed that there's more than one person, but Wayne pays him a little extra and he lets them stay. They are staying. Yeah. So I guess we'll just address what just happened. So you guys probably just heard us talking and it abruptly cut off because there was an error that we didn't notice for a long time. And I know this is like one of those jokes that people would tell, and especially something we would tell. But we had like a 20-minute conversation about not only this movie, but like Scream, and we touched a little bit on Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and you know, I really talked a lot of shit about Ghostface because he's a pussy, and I probably should not say that. I really talked a lot of shit about Ghostface because, you know, he's a pussy, and he gets his ass kicked throughout both of those movies, or all of those movies, or at least the one that I've seen. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We lost a lot of conversation, and I guess we'll have to weasel that into some other thing. Anyway, it was fun, and you guys missed it, and that sucks. And now Jess and I are both slightly more annoyed. Anyway, so I guess we have to go back to, God, a long ways. So do you remember, did we talk about the preacher before we got into the recap?
I don't know.
I don't know. The editing job for this one is going to be fun because there's some points we're going to need to touch on it like probably twice. The group arrives at the farm owned by Howard and Pearl. Howard seems annoyed that there is more than one person, but Wayne pays him a little extra to let them stay in the boarding house on the farm. Howard asks for discretion and doesn't seem to want Pearl to know that they are there. What?
Well, because now I'm like, well, I know what I said before, but I don't know what I have to say.
This is fucking chaos.
Yeah, because the whole reason he's annoyed is because he thought it was just going to be Wayne.
Yeah.
And he knows what they're doing. He's not an idiot.
Yeah, he can tell what they're doing. I don't know if he knows that they're filming it, but he can tell that they're about to be doing a lot of sexing.
Sure. Yeah.
And yes, the fact that there's more than one person clearly fucks up his plan.
Yeah.
Him and Pearl's plan.
Yeah.
You know what? To his credit, truly a loving husband.
I guess. There's a lot about him I don't know. Even after Pearl, I'm like, I don't.
Well, we didn't get any character exploration of him and Pearl. He literally shows up at the very end. We see him twice. Once when she fantasizes about him blowing up, and
I think twice.
Does she do that twice?
I think so.
Oh yeah. Wait, they might. Do they show it like during the dance sequence?
He is blown up.
Yeah.
He's burnt.
Yeah.
And he's like judging.
Okay. RJ starts shooting a scene with Jackson and Bobby Lynn while Maxxxine goes for a walk. She takes a swim in a nearby lake, not realizing that A, Pearl is creeping on her, and B, an alligator is coming at her. She narrowly escapes, never even realizing it was there. And this was the thing that we were talking about earlier with the music. One thing about this scene that drives me personally crazy, and maybe this is my non-alligator California living ass, I would never just hop into a lake in the deep south.
Yeah.
There's alligators everywhere.
Yeah. If there's water, there's alligators.
Yeah.
If you can't
like
see.
Texas, Louisiana. If I'm not familiar with that body of water, if it is not cleared, nobody I'm with who knows the area is like, this is safe, I'm not getting in it.
Like I said, I feel that way any water. Even if there's not alligators here, I don't know what's in that random lake. I'm not getting in there. If I don't know, if it doesn't say like safe to swim or some fucking shit, I'm not getting in.
Yeah.
There's other things in water that I don't want to deal with.
Yeah. go swimming in Lake Herman and maybe find a couple bodies. So Pearl gets Maxxine's attention and invites her into the house for a glass of lemonade. She tells Maxxine how jealous she is of her youth and beauty. She tries to touch Maxxine in a sexual fashion that creeps her out.
The whole conversation is very, odd.
It is a very awkward conversation. She also tells Maxxine it'll be our secret and does the hush gesture that we'll see her repeat throughout both of these movies, which really confuses Maxxine. The crew then gathers for a scene between Maxxine and Jackson in the barn. Pearl watches from the window and imagines herself in Maxine's place. And this is the point where I personally realized that Mia Goth was in both roles.
Yeah, I don't think I did until later when she gets in bed with her.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just was, like I said, I was just more thrown off because I'm like, why is there a person in old makeup?
Yeah.
Why?
No, as soon as they're showing this scene and Maxxine disappears and Pearl appears in her place, I could all those similarities in facial structure kicked in. So now that Pearl is all horned up, she goes home and tries to initiate sex with Howard, who can't because of his weak heart, which leaves Pearl depressed, upset, and feeling very rejected.
There's other things you can do, man. Get with the times.
I know. Despite being a very clearly loving husband, sounds like he's kind of a selfish lover.
Yeah.
That night, Lorraine asks the group about their lifestyle, and after listening to their explanation and very excited by what she saw today, she asks to film a scene in the movie. RJ makes excuses for why she can't, but they are flimsy. Not wanting to risk exposure as a liar and a hypocrite, and after talking to Wayne, he relents and films a scene of Jackson and Church Mouse together. Fun little detail in that before doing this scene, you get a close-up of her taking the...
She removes her cross.
She removes the crucifix
and
necklace.
Then she has her Sunday underwear, which she knows God's day.
Her Sunday undies.
Which is so funny to me because I've known about, girls having days of the week underwear, but I'm like, was that a real thing?
And why?
Yeah. I don't know, but I've heard of it before.
Maybe...
I know it's an innocence thing, but I'm still why?
Oh, I mean, I don't know, man. I can barely pick out a specific pair of underwear in the morning. I'm lucky if I don't grab, the nice underwear on just a regular day, Half the time, if there's a particular shirt that I want to wear, I don't remember to grab that one.
Yeah.
To be fair, my wardrobe is 90%
band t-shirts
from concerts.
Yeah.
Later, everyone goes to bed while RJ cries like a little bitch in the shower. He decides to take the van and ditch everyone at the farm, but he is stopped by Pearl.
It's so fucked up. It's I understand why he's upset because he thought his girlfriend was above it and more innocent and better. But it's he also lied to her about this whole thing. And then also it's he thought he had ownership of her. But he's literally in the fetal position crying in the bath in the shower. It's
this is why I really don't like RJ.
Yeah.
He 100% brought this on himself. I don't do a ton of research on the movies. I research some basic things and I kind of look up people's discussions and all that. I know you do more research than I do. Mm-hmm. But one thing that I saw a lot of is people talking so much shit about Church Mouse. I can't believe she would do that to him. She made him watch while she had sex with another guy. Blah, 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 blah.
I didn't see a lot of people talk shit about her, but a lot of people had sympathy for him.
I don't. Okay, so first off, she didn't know that they were filming porn.
Yeah.
And she wasn't comfortable with it, which tells me that clearly he didn't tell her deliberately.
Yeah.
He's basically just bringing her along to have her carry his gear.
Yeah.
He is treating her more like an employee than a girlfriend. Yeah, but he's not super respectful of her. No. He doesn't show any appreciation throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
When they're having this conversation, the group starts telling her about how sex can be separate from love, and they kind of talk about how they're their way of being free-spirited and sexually open is like they don't flat out say it's more enlightened or a better way to be, but it's
not looking down on them. She's genuinely like curious and doesn't understand how they can live this way. So it's a very like non-judgmental conversation, which even RJ is like upset that they're even having this conversation.
Right, except that he participates.
Yeah.
And he helps convince her.
But he thinks it's his in to become an actual director.
Right. So he's being manipulative, and again, he's being a poser because he is espousing these beliefs that he doesn't personally hold.
Yeah.
He just wants to film his movie, and he's doing what he thinks he needs to do to get it done. So the rest of the group is telling her why this is okay and why it's a good thing. They're getting through to her, and he, at the same time, basically gaslights her with the same message.
Yeah.
And then he's all butthurt about it when she wants to participate as more than the girl carrying the gear.
Like, I can understand why it would be shocking and upsetting, but not to this level. I could see being a little hurt, you know, but then don't literally fetal position crying and then being like, I'm gonna make sure they're all stuck here. I'm just gonna take off. And remember, this is like a time without like cell phones or like anything. You would really be stuck.
We don't know that they have a phone on the farm
at all.
Oh no, actually we do. Wayne mentions talking to Howard on the phone.
Right.
But you know, either way, here's the key to healthy relationships, man. Communication.
Yeah.
If monogamy is your thing,
great.
That's fine. That's great. If polyamory is your thing, fine, great. Open relationships, whatever works for you.
Well, and whatever works for everyone involved.
Well, right. Whatever works for your relationship is great. And there's no reason that people who have different relationship styles can't like coexist and can't get along. Yeah. I have a ton of friends who are into the poly thing, and that's great for them. Katie and I kind of aren't, and that's great for us. We're also open-minded enough that maybe we'll branch out at some point, but right now we don't feel a need to, and that's fine.
Yep.
So if he was just like, this isn't for us,
or can we discuss this?
Or can we discuss this privately before we make this decision?
Yeah.
You can literally just say like, that's not a relationship for me personally. It's great for everybody else, and I think that our dynamic works.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do that. He doesn't communicate with her. He's too far up his own ass as somebody who thinks they're going to be a genius filmmaker filming porn, which I get it. In the 70s, a lot of people actually did feel like porn was going to blow up a lot more.
Well, because porn at the time was in theaters.
Yeah, and it was a much more acceptable thing.
You had to make an actual movie. There had to be a plot around the sex, unlike now. Because it was like in theaters, you didn't watch, but they also were like, oh, because they knew home video was coming. That's also why they thought it was going to blow up, which porn did.
Yeah, but it didn't blow up in the way that they thought.
No, but again, horror movies, there's a lot of similarity to horror movies. A lot of good actors and directors start in horror because it's an easy avenue to like start.
Yeah.
So he's not wrong.
No, he's not, but like his motivations are shitty, and he's manipulative and just a jerk.
RJ sucks.
Yeah, RJ sucks. So he tries to take the van and ditch everybody on the farm. He is stopped by Pearl, who tries to seduce him. When he rejects her, she stabs his head clean off in a very sexually charged scene, and I'm pretty sure is having an orgasm while plunging the knife in.
This ends up being very similar to a scene in Pearl, the Scarecrow. Honestly.
Yeah. And then after...
Who also loses his head.
That's true. After she stabs him to death, she stands up and dances around while Wee Wee Marie plays, presumably in her head, but they're playing a great rendition by Chelsea Wolfe. Lorraine notices that RJ is missing and asks Wayne to help find him. Wayne goes into the barn thinking that RJ is kind of hiding out in there and tries to offer some manly wisdom to RJ, who he doesn't know is dead. But for his troubles, he gets a nail in the foot and then Pearl's pitchfork in his face, which is great. Pearl is a really good... You know, unlike Ghostface, Pearl is a great slasher villain.
Sure. Though there's some logistics that could be questioned with these really old people that can't move around.
Like how she can barely move, but she can suddenly like totally stab a pitchfork through your skull.
Yeah.
You know what? She's got a lot of practice with it. Her pitchfork is clearly her weapon of choice. Like most of the kills that she does in both movies are with the pitchfork.
No, only one in each.
No, she kills the goose with and I am counting the goose. She kills the goose. She kills what's his bucket in the car, the projectionist.
Yeah, that's it.
She kills this dude, Wayne. Okay, to be fair, there's not a ton of kills in these movies, and Howard actually does more than she does in this one.
Yeah, but in Pearl, there's the sister, there's the mom, there's the dad. I think the mom's an accident.
The mom is an accident, but it's where she gets her lust for killing. Well, actually, no.
Anyways, we'll get to this.
Because she kills the goose beforehand and does the whole thing with the eggs and all that.
Yeah.
The mom's an accident, but, that's what she gets. Lorraine then asks Howard for help. He sends her to the basement to get a flashlight, but then he locks her in there, where she finds the rotting corpse of a sex slave chained up to the ceiling. Howard finds Jackson, who had woken up for some milk, and asks him to help look for Pearl. Jackson does try to help and gets a shotgun blast to the chest for his troubles from Howard. I think Jackson's one of the most likable characters in this movie.
Sure.
He's like...
Yeah.
He's
I like Bobby Lynn a lot, too.
Bobby Lynn is great. All of these characters are really likable, and something that I really like...
And they're, like, believable characters. They seem like real people.
They
don't seem like caricatures, even though, like, in a lot of ways they are. But they don't feel like it. They feel like real people.
They're meant to be...
And they feel like a group of friends.
Yeah. So it's kind of the opposite of what you get in a lot of movies of lesser quality, where somebody is trying to make a real character, but they just make like a two-dimensional thing.
Or a lot of slashers, it's just a bunch of assholes you want to die.
Yeah. But in this movie, they're very much three-dimensional characters. They all have their qualities and their detractors. Bobby Lynn's kind of bitchy, but she's also like really funny and fun.
Well, they even show later that she's very like nurturing.
Yeah, and she's very nurturing and caring and creative. Jackson is, as I said before, a really good-hearted dude, kind of cocky.
Yeah, which Bobby Lynn puts him in his place when they have their sex scene.
Oh yeah,
because she's like, oh, well, like, it's acting, which is also part of that scene is wanting to show, because people always ask when you make horror movies, is it scary? No, same as when you make porn, is it sexy? Usually not.
Yeah.
And so he's like, during the scene,
standing there.
Yeah, he's like, oh,
flexing.
I'm such a stud. She's like, yeah, you don't get over yourself. And he's like, what? You can't say it again. She's like, oh, like, she's like, is that what you mean? You think that's you?
He's like, you're good. You're not that good. Kid Cudi fucking kills it so much in this movie. I also gotta say, I also appreciate this. They don't show his dick totally, but they do show a silhouette of it.
It's a silhouette.
Yeah. There's two dicks in this movie. It
kind of reminds me of Boogie Nights. Just a similar scene of just...
Yeah. It's pretty great, though. There's two dicks in this movie, which I always appreciate, as anyone who's listened to other episodes knows. One is a dead dick, and one is a silhouette, but it's still two dicks.
Yep.
Good for you, Ty West, for throwing something in there for the dick lovers in the house. Pearl sneaks inside the guest house and climbs into bed with Maxxxine and starts massaging her. Maxxxine, understandably, freaks out and wakes up Bobby Lynn. Bobby Lynn sees Pearl by the lake and goes to try to help her.
Yeah, because she's like, oh, my nan used to get confused.
Yeah, and she was thinking about being a nurse before she became a stripper and porn star and all that.
Yeah, she was a burlesque dancer, I think. But yeah, she goes there to like comfort her and try to help her. Because she's like, oh, I know how to deal with this.
And Pearl is just awful to her.
She's like, you fucking bitch.
Yeah, and then throws her into the waiting jaws of an alligator.
Yeah.
Oh, so just backing up for 1 second, I do want to note something that's really funny is Jackson gets up to have himself some milk. Yeah, did you want to touch on this?
Oh, well, yeah, I meant to, but I guess I don't know if I zoned out or
No, go for it.
Oh, well, yeah, so when Kid Cudi's drinking milk, there's a missing person on it, and it's the guy in the basement.
Right, which is
also
an
weird.
error.
Yeah, because missing persons children weren't on milk cartons until the 80s, but then also they never did adults. It was always children.
I think eventually they did in like the 90s, but...
No.
Really?
Yeah, because they already were gone by then. They weren't on in the 90s because the Amber Alert started.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It still exists.
No, but it's less annoying now.
Yeah.
And it wasn't annoying when it first started because it was just road signs.
Yeah.
But when they first brought it to cell phones.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm glad that they fixed the implementation of it So Pearl and Howard have a little heart-to-heart, and despite his fears about his heart, they decide to get it on while Maxxine hides from them under the bed. And this is an interesting scene because, we've had sex throughout this whole movie.
Yeah.
And this movie is about filmmaking, but it's also about sex. It's about aging.
Yeah.
Pearl and Howard are old and, not exactly attractive people anymore. And the movie doesn't shy away from them having sex.
Yeah, it's very long, actually.
It is long, and it is meant to be uncomfortable for Maxxine, but not because there's old people fucking. It's because she's under the bed.
I don't know.
And they're going to fucking kill her.
That's an actual question, though, is this scene purposely there and long to be uncomfortable because they're old? Are you supposed to be grossed out at it? And Ty West doesn't ever discuss this in any of the interviews I've watched of him. It's a trope that I don't like in horror movies, and I feel like it's in a lot of modern horror movies, like Hereditary and even to some extent Barbarian, is like old naked people, specifically old naked women, are supposed to be scary. And that is part of the horror, is seeing old people naked. And
does that tie back to witchcraft, though, because witches were supposed to be old and naked?
Maybe, but I also just think as a society, I don't understand why we think old people are just disgusting. Hopefully it is a blessing to be able to age
and to still be able to function.
Yeah, so I don't know. I've talked about this before with you, but when I was in my 20s and I went to Erotic Exotic Ball, which was a fetish Halloween party, I actually was surprised because there is a lot of naked people, old naked people there.
Yeah,
and young people.
Same with the Folsom Street
But
Fair.
I never thought they were gross. I was always just they just look like people. Even when I watched this, when I first watched this with Craven, he was like, ugh. And I was like, I just don't understand. I mean, I understand if you don't find old people attractive. I'm not saying you got to look at old people and be hot.
Although, to be fair, this is a movie that in a large way is about porn, and some people will pay good money for the whole G-MILF thing.
Sure, but I just don't think just because you're old, you're not allowed to be sexual. And if there's any hint that you are, it's disgusting. It's fine if you don't want to look at old people having sex. I don't want to look at most people I know having sex. But you know what I mean? It's a horror trope to be ugh, old people.
Yeah.
And I do think this movie is commenting on that, whether Ty West actually meant it to or not.
I think it does. And I think that he's, because this movie is very much about aging, lust.
He says it's just about being a product of your situation, that we all don't fully choose our lives or who we are.
But with sex and age being such major things in the movie,
and in society,
I assume that he had to be considering that.
Yeah. But we just idolize youth so much, and
Yeah.
it has to do with being sexy, being hot.
Right.
We act as Americans, being so prudish and scared of sex, we also act like that's all the value people have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just...
It's unfortunate because so many people end up with their entire self-worth just...
Well, I wonder if that's Pearl.
Being based on being attractive.
Yeah, but I wonder if that's Pearl's thing. Is she just some horny old woman, or is she just so desperate to be loved? And women are taught, whether directly or not through society, you will be loved if you are attractive enough, which means people want to have sex with you. So is she just wanting sex so much because she equates that to that's the only way I am being shown love, is if people fuck me?
I think that...
And I know people like this.
We've got a little ways to go before we get there, but I think the movie Pearl very much answers that question in the affirmative.
Sure.
It is very clear.
But it's not just about her being some horn dog.
No, it's how she experiences love and self-worth.
And I think we teach particularly young women that in society.
Yes, we still do. We always have. This is one of those ways in which women just can't win.
Yeah.
Because your value as a woman is supposed to be tied directly to your fuckability.
But if you fuck too much, you're a goddamn whore.
Yeah. Sex, not allowed, but you better be sexy.
Yeah. If everyone doesn't want to fuck you, you have no value. But if everyone does fuck you, you also have no value.
Yeah, there is no winning in what's the word I'm looking for here?
the patriarchy.
No, but true. That is correct. There is no winning in the patriarchy. And before any dudes get up our ass about that, it's not good for you either, guys.
Yeah.
Puritan. This weird Puritan society that we've created, there's no winning for like anybody.
No.
You can't be unsexy, but you can't be too sexy. You know what? Just go watch Barbie. There's a whole fucking thing about it in that movie,
Sure.
Which will state it so much better than I could.
Yeah.
And, props to Margot Robbie for fucking killing it in that.
But yeah, just again, old people sex, especially particularly women, old women naked, being gross and being part of horror. I think this movie is commenting on it more than like Hereditary, where it's just like, no, there's old people around. And that is supposed to be scary.
Yeah.
We need to move on from it.
Yeah. Let's move on from old people fucking. When I was growing up, I think I've told you, I basically learned to swear riding in the car with my dad.
Sure.
And there was something that he used to say which fucking cracked me up and still cracks me up to this day when he would get stuck behind somebody, is he would yell, "You drive like old people fuck." And which was so fucking funny. I remember the first time he said that, in my mind I was howling with laughter, but I wasn't sure I was supposed to laugh at it. So I was just like, I'm not going to react to this. But it was so goddamn funny. What a weird thing to say.
Yeah.
But my dad had a bunch of stuff that I say, and you guys all give me shit for my old-timey catchphrases and whatnot. But I got them all from my dad, who was a legitimately very cool guy. You drive like old people, fuck. Fucking love it. Maxxine manages to escape without being noticed because the elder couple is preoccupied. She's able to free Lorraine from the basement, and Lorraine, what an idiot. So she frees Lorraine from the basement and tries to tell her to be quiet, but of course, Lorraine just runs screaming and gets the old shotgun blast from Howard. While Pearl and Howard are cleaning up their mess, Lorraine's body twitches, which gives Howard that heart attack that he's been afraid of.
Funny.
Pearl tries to shoot Maxxine with a shotgun, but gets recoiled right out of the house and probably breaks hella bones, including her hip. At which point, Pearl tries to give Maxxine this movie's version of the old "We're not so different, you and I" speech. Maxxine tells her off and then runs over her head with Howard's truck. At this point, we come back to the police investigation of the aftermath, and we see the preacher on TV, and we see him show a picture of his daughter who has fallen into sin, and it is Maxxine. The police find the camera and speculate what's on it. And this is like honestly one of my favorite lines in the whole movie. I think the reason why they had the sheriff was one of the deputies asks him, "What do you think happened here?" And he goes, "How the fuck should I know?" And then either the same deputy or another one, I don't remember, brings him the camera that the crew was using, and he goes like, "What do you think's on it?" And the sheriff goes, "Whatever it is, I bet it's one fucked up horror picture," which is clearly a comment on the entire movie.
Yeah, but it's also funny because I'm like, just think when they watch it later and it's just porn.
Yeah, which is great, which is really great.
It's like, oh.
but there's a fun play on words there with the word fuck. Yeah. This is like the most meta moment of the whole movie, and it happens right before the credits roll. Yeah. And it's kind of perfect. Before we...
What I was going to say, which we mentioned before with RJ's death, is that the in the beginning, when the cows hit, some people think that is foreshadowing RJ's death. Yeah. Because it's similar in how the blood splatter.
Especially on the front of the car.
Yeah. And then there's also in the very beginning, Bobby Lynn exits the strip club, and there's a large mural of a blonde woman her underwear being pulled down by an alligator. Oh. And so...
I missed that.
Yeah. Wayne, in a conversation, tells them that people's eyes are going to pop out of their skull when they see this film.
And then he gets a pitchfork through the eyes. He gets a pitchfork
through his eyes. Another point, Wayne tells RJ, never let a good woman out of your sight and never mention her weight. Howard, when he's pulling Lorraine's body, he comments on, like, she's heavier than she looks. And that's when she twitches. And then he has this heart attack.
That's great.
Oh, Jackson mentioned several times that when he was in the Vietnam War, that he got guns pulled on him by farmers, and then he gets shot. A lot of the dialogue in this movie actually like throws back to like later scenes, and I'm sure there's more in there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he also Howard is constantly talks. He's worried about Pearl falling and breaking her hip, and then when she shoots the gun to try to hit Maxxine, she falls and breaks her hip and can't get up.
So there's another line in Pearl, and we'll come to that later, but I feel like this is a good time to point it out. Howard's whole thing about not wanting to have sex with her is because of his fragile heart.
Yeah.
During Pearl's monologue at the end of Pearl, she very specifically says, "I've always been careful with your heart."
Yeah.
Which I really like that callback.
No, it's also, so Ty West also talked about, because this movie was filmed in New Zealand, he did as much as he could to make it look like it took place in Texas.
He did a good job.
Yeah, because he says he hates when movies you can just tell where they are. But the hardest thing for them to do, which I did, like, to me, this is just interesting because I would have never thought about it, is like for both this movie and Pearl, is finding old-timey cars, because like even that van from the 70s, but the steering wheel has to be on the left side.
Oh,
because they drive on the other side of the road. And he's like, we're in New Zealand, but we got to find cars that have it on the American side. That's funny. And I was like, oh, I would never consider that.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so going through some of these notes here. All right, I don't know which of these we lost, so I'm just going to start over with them, kind of.
Sure.
Which I'm not keeping that in the...
Yeah, obviously.
Well, now I have to. Because there's another episode where I'm like, obvious, we're going to cut that. And you go, obviously. And it's in there still. So Pearl and Howard are keeping sex slaves for Pearl because Howard can't have sex anymore.
Right.
I honestly missed that, like, the first time I watched this movie.
Really? What did you think the guy in the basement was?
I didn't really think about it.
Because he's, like, strung up and his dick's just hanging out.
Yeah. I don't know what I thought about that. I mean, clearly I wasn't thinking about it too much.
I listened to another podcast I re-listened to a podcast of people when this first came out, and they also didn't know what the guy in the basement was about.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, what? I thought it was obvious.
I will say the first time that we watched this, I'm not going to get too into detail about this for... on the show. But you know all about this. When we first watched this was when Katie and I were having the troubles with the house. My mind was kind of elsewhere. Like I think it was like 2 days later, we had to move to the hotel. I think I probably just missed it because I wasn't like...
It is a quick thing too.
Yeah, and I just wasn't able to
you could literally look away and miss it.
Yeah. One of the reasons I really wanted to do this movie was because I knew the first time that I watched it that I should really like this movie. And I did really like it.
Yeah.
But I knew that I wasn't appreciating it fully.
Sure.
Which now I've watched it a number of times. And I do got to say, every time I watch this movie, I like it more.
Well, I think it's easy to dismiss as just a basic slasher.
Yeah. But every time I watch it, I see more. And not just like little details, but like I get more of the depth of the characters.
Yeah.
And it just resonates more every time I watch it. And if I'm being honest, I think I would have to say it might be my favorite movie right now. I very much feel about it the same way that I felt about American Psycho years ago when I was when I would watch that frequently before Netflix had streaming and it was still just whatever DVDs that you had.
Yeah.
I've watched that movie a million times and I could watch this one a million times, I think.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I think it's working out to me. Might be one of the best trilogies.
Yeah, because Pearl also just fucking kills it.
Yeah, and Maxxine looks great so far.
Yeah, Maxxine looks great. We will come back to Maxxine. So this is an idea that gets a lot more fleshed out in Pearl, but I want to talk about it here. At the end of the movie, Pearl gives Maxxine this "we're not so different, you and I" speech, which is kind of a trope that you see in a lot of movies.
Well, they literally are the same person also.
Well, right. But in most movies, when you get this, it's a point where the hero or the protagonist can really set themselves apart from the villain and draw a line underneath how they're different. And they always respond with this whole, we're nothing alike, blah, 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 blah. But what I love about the we're not so different speech in this movie, it's correct. Like Pearl is right. And not just in that they're being played by the same character. Maxxine is trying to get away from a situation that she doesn't want to be in.
Yeah.
She states in this movie, I have better places to be than where I came from.
Yeah.
And that is like the entire crux of the movie Pearl.
Yeah.
Is Pearl not wanting to be on this farm. They both think of looks and sex as their way out.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily get as much of the confusion between sex and love with Maxxine. She separates those things a lot more than Pearl does.
Sure. But it's still like
It's
a
still
tool to get what she wants.
It's still a tool to get what she wants, and they both think that film is going to be their way out.
Also,
and,
just the fact that she runs over Pearl's head. She doesn't have to.
right.
She chooses to kill her.
That's
she
what
could
I
have
was gonna.
just left.
Yeah, and that's where I was gonna going with this. Is like Maxxine is basically scot-free. Pearl's got a broken hip. She ain't going nowhere. She can't reach the shotgun, and Maxxine gives her essentially a quippy one-liner and runs over her head. And I don't remember when she runs over her head. I think she just says bitch.
Yeah.
Which Pearl did after she threw Bobby Lynn into the alligator.
Yeah.
She just says bitch.
Yeah.
So they are very much the same character, which makes me kind of wonder if in Maxxine is going to be the killer.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, but that also could very much be a misdirect.
Sure.
We'll get into that with the trailer later. Yeah. But there is a part of me that's like, are they going to imply that like Richard Ramirez wasn't really the Night Stalker and it was Maxxine?
I don't think so.
I mean, because that looks like it's going to play a big part in the movie, right?
Yeah,
but it's got to be a red herring of some sort.
I mean, just an assumption. I think she's going to be able to cover up her crimes because.
Oh, yeah. All right, we'll come back to that later. Fun little detail that I caught, I think the second time I watched this. The crew drives around in a van with a company name of Plowing Service.
Oh, yeah. It's funny.
Which is great. There's also one of the moments of more meta commentary. RJ, early on in the film, is explaining to Bobby Lynn how editing a film works. And he's giving her sort of a high-level explanation, but he also talks about how he wants to mess around with the editing and try to do something kind of artsy and weird with it. And there are 6 scenes in this movie where they do something really weird with the editing, where it'll be transitioning from, scene A to scene B. You'll start in scene A and then it'll smash cut to scene B, but then smash cut back to scene A and then smash cut back to scene B and then back to A and back to B. It feels kind of like this movie's version of a fade, but it's just really different and kind of jarring. I wrote down the scenes that it happens in because I've been trying to figure out if there's a specific significance to it because I feel like there should be.
Yeah.
So the first time we see it is in the transition from present day to 24 hours ago, from the police to Maxxine talking herself up in the mirror.
Yeah.
There's another one between them leaving the gas station and finding and getting stuck behind the accident involving the cow.
Yeah.
There's one after the initial that transfers from the initial sex scene to Maxxine swimming in the lake. There's another one from Howard rejecting Pearl's advances to the crew hanging out and relaxing after they're done filming for the day.
Sure.
There's one from Howard having sex with Pearl while Maxxine escapes and runs to the van, to her finding RJ and the knife in the tire. And that one I think is kind of the weird outlier because it's not even really a different scene. And then between Maxxine killing Pearl and escaping to present day, and the reveal that Maxxine is the preacher's daughter.
Right.
I was trying to figure out if there's like a common theme in these scenes. Did you happen to notice anything like that? If anybody can point out a commonality between those, I feel like that editing trick is drawing our attention to something.
Yeah.
And I haven't figured out what it is exactly. It's not necessarily a passage of time because like I said, one of them is just her running from a door to the van.
Yeah.
But then there's others that are, Anyway, I don't know. I was just trying to figure out why he did this there. But yeah, that is X, and I fucking love this movie.
Yeah, it's a great movie. So you can watch this for free or with the subscription on Netflix and Fubo. And it's also on Showtime. Anywhere that you can add Showtime onto, it's on there.
So like through Amazon and
and
Paramount?
Paramount Plus comes with Showtime now, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you can rent or buy it pretty much anywhere. So Prime, Apple, Google Play, YouTube, Vudu, and Microsoft.
This whole thing with like different services inside of other services and basically turning into channels.
It's so confusing.
It's becoming a pain in the ass.
It is.
It's like cable used to be, but less straightforward.
Yeah. Yeah, no, streaming services are just becoming cable.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah, and I think at the end they're going to become more expensive.
No,
it's gonna be
even
more
like
expensive.
right now, so if you have Hulu and add Disney to it, you cannot get rid of commercials on Disney. But if you have Disney and then add Hulu, you can get rid of commercials.
On both?
Yeah, but they want you to have Disney as your main thing. And I'm like, fuck you.
Dude, they're about to add a commercial tier to Shudder.
Really?
Yeah.
A lot of places are.
Which
It's already so cheap though compared to other services.
it is, but I'm assuming that there's going to be a new add-on to remove commercial. Also, this one really pisses me off, and I don't know if this is just like me and Katie not being able to figure out how to fucking work Amazon Prime.
No, they took away that it has to have ads.
You can pay to have the ads removed, but if you've got like a family account or account with multiple profiles,
Yeah.
you have to pay per account.
Yeah.
Or per profile.
Yeah, there's no way around that.
So like I have I started
Even Paramount, some shows have ads even if you pay for no ads.
fucking unacceptable.
There's no way to get rid of it.
Unacceptable. I fucking hate advertising. Like
That's what I'm paying for.
yeah. I am paying for this specifically so that I don't have to goddamn watch it with ads.
Yeah.
And I have started to notice that some things that like some like movies, I feel like they're starting to insert just ad breaks.
Yeah.
Period. Like just the way they fade out at specific times that don't necessarily make sense.
Right.
It's like, this is where the ads are going to go, huh?
Yeah.
And I hate it. I hate it. I fucking hate it.
All right.
This is a problem with capitalism.
I gotta go.
Okay. All right. Yeah. We'll.
Take a break and then go to Pearl.
Yeah. And then Maxxxine.
Thank you for listening to Streaming Screams Podcast. You can follow us at our socials at Streaming Screams Pod for Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and SoundCloud.
You can also follow us on TikTok or on the dreaded Twitter/X at ScreamsPod. Thank you again for listening. We hope you're enjoying yourselves. Jessica, are you enjoying yourself?
Absolutely.
All right, then. On to the next part of the show. And we are back with Pearl. Released in 2022. Written by Ty West and Mia Goth. Directed by Ty West. It stars Mia Goth as Pearl, a lonely girl trapped on her parents' farm with her husband away fighting in World War I. She dreams of being a big movie star and a dancer. She shows signs of psychopathy, not caring for anyone else, murdering animals, and occasionally physically abusing her invalid father. We've got David Corenswet as the projectionist, a bohemian who takes an interest in Pearl and plans on someday pursuing the arts in Europe. We have Tandy Wright as Ruth, Pearl's harsh, stern, and domineering mother. She's a German immigrant who runs the farm and does her best to take care of Pearl's invalid father while trying to get Pearl to live a more grounded life and make the most of what she's got. We've got Matthew Sutherland as Pearl's father, a German immigrant who was rendered invalid by the Spanish flu.
They actually don't ever say that. They just say he got sick. They never say it's the Spanish flu. It's never said what he's actually. It just says your father. Your father got sick, but it is not said it's Spanish flu.
Okay, I could swear there's one point in the movie.
No, they just acknowledge he got sick.
Okay, well, it's probably from the Spanish flu.
It's implied, but it's not actually like stated because actually, like even trying to look it up, the Spanish flu doesn't cause like locked-in syndrome.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's I think it's purposely left fake.
Yeah. Okay. And then finally, we've got Emma Jenkins Purro as Mitzi, Howard's sister, a beautiful and kind-hearted blonde woman who tries her best to be a friend to Pearl. We also have Alistair Sewell as Howard, Pearl's husband, a soldier fighting in the war, and he barely appears in this movie.
Mostly just to blow up every once in a while in Pearl's imagination.
Or to look absolutely shocked for like 2 seconds before the world's greatest not frozen freeze frame. It is 1918, and Pearl lives on a Texas farm with her parents. The Spanish flu has reached America, and people are avoiding each other while wearing masks. It feels very familiar.
Just because, like, you know, this is a podcast and the internet's, and you could be listening to this, like, 10 years from now.
Oh.
This was filmed during the 2020 pandemic.
Yeah.
Everyone else knows that, but I'm just saying, you know, there could be people that don't know.
Someday in the far off future, when our fan base is showing this to their children or their
it's
children's
just, you know,
children,
be successful long enough, and there's, you know, people that grew up and restart it. You don't know.
Don't curse us with that talk, Jessica. So, pretty much the first thing that happens is her mom catches her dancing around in her mom's old dress and gives her a ration of shit for it. She then is feeding and dancing for her barn animals when a goose walks into the barn. She kills the goose with a pitchfork and feeds it to her alligator. It is great. She has this pet alligator that we saw in the first movie.
Yeah, which I don't think this is a sign of psychopathy. Like, because, you know, alligators got to eat too. I mean,
No,
I'm not
but,
killing
you
a
know,
goose, but...
But like the crushing of the eggs.
Yeah, but I'm saying this in particular. And also, I think she was going to keep and raise that egg, but then she gets pissed off.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, there's clearly something fucking wrong
I'm not saying she's
with
psycho.
her.
I'm just saying I don't think this is a sign of it.
Yeah. I mean,
Gotta feed that alligator.
by itself, it might not be, but when you put the puzzle pieces together, it fits.
Sure.
Pearl takes a bath with her father right there in the wheelchair. She pokes him, prods him, asks if he's still in there, and chokes him a little bit.
And again, the choking is out of place, but the pinching him and stuff I don't think is. Because if you have somebody...
Poking and pinching... Like, I wouldn't personally do that.
But I wouldn't either. But
like, maybe if I was a little kid.
Yeah, so we don't know how old exactly she is, but she's at least immature.
And old enough to be married, though.
Yes, but it's
I mean,
early 1900s.
I realize this is 1918.
So she could be like 16 maybe.
Yeah, I feel like she's
I'm just saying that,
older
like,
than that,
without
but yeah.
the internet and them being isolated on a farm, probably never heard of or dealt with another locked in like person. So I could see people doing the whole like pinching thing to be like, are you still there? Not saying you should.
Which I think we can tell from the looks in his eyes later on that he's definitely still in there.
Definitely gives expressions like that. He has mild facial expressions, so
Yeah.
you can tell that he is, which sucks.
Yes.
Just kill me if I'm like that.
Oh, God, for real. I got to hand it to that guy. He does a really good job acting with nothing but his eyes.
Yeah, it is just moving his eyes around, and
Yeah.
maybe like a little like crooked lip tremble.
Great job on his part.
Yep.
It must have been just a terrible role just sitting there all the
Well,
time.
he's not on screen that much. So.
I know, but still. So her mother comes in and seems to disapprove of her taking a bath in front of her father, but she tells Pearl where the money for her father's medicine is and sends her to town to pick up the prescription. After she gets her father's medicine, she sort of sneaks away to a movie theater where she meets the projectionist, and they take a liking to each other. It is worth noting that while she's watching the movie, she does take a swig of her dad's medicine, which is
It's morphine.
yeah. I was trying to remember if it was
It's specifically
heroin
morphine.
or
Yeah,
morphine.
both were given as medication at the time, so
Yeah, man. You know, medical stuff has come a long way.
Has it? I was thinking of like Oxycontin and stuff. Has it?
I don't know.
I guess over the counter stuff.
Yeah. I don't know why I said that I say that half sarcastically, but also just slightly bitterly. I think I spent like an hour on the phone with doctors and insurance today trying to hammer some shit out because God fucking forbid Americans have anything that isn't a complete pain in the ass with healthcare.
Yeah.
Anywho, so she and the projectionist take a liking to each other. On the way home, she finds a scarecrow. She imagines it to be the projectionist as she dances with it and then proceeds to have sex with it.
Yeah. And then gets mad because she sees the projectionist and is like, I'm married!
Oh my God.
It might be worth noting this is like either the second or third reference, probably also to Wizard of Oz.
There's a lot of Wizard of Oz references in this.
Yeah, so it's that, and then also the bike in the dress she's wearing when riding into town looks like the Wicked Witch when we're in the real world in Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. And I think it's even like the same bike and all that. Like it's
a similar bike.
Clearly deliberate.
Yeah. Mia Goth was told to watch Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and Wizard of Oz to prepare for this role.
You know, I don't know if I've ever actually seen Whatever Happened to Baby Jane.
Yeah, it's crazy. Also, just worth noting since we're talking about Wizard of Oz, this movie was originally supposed to be in black and white, but A24 was against it. So then that's why it had the Wizard of Oz references, because they decided, well, if it can't be black and white, we'll do Technicolor.
You know what? I'm going to side with A24 on this one because the Technicolor looks gorgeous in this movie.
I think, but I do like movies for the right reasons that are in black and white, but I think this compared with X would be too big of a juxtaposition.
I agree. Yeah, I am going to say that is one thing that I wasn't expecting coming into this movie was to see Mia Goth masturbating with a fucking scarecrow.
Yeah. Which we mentioned in X is very similar to the first kill.
Yeah.
In that movie.
I think all the camera angles are all pretty much the same.
Yeah, and the way she's grinding on either a dead body or a scarecrow, and the fact that they both lose their head.
Pearl is just
also the scarecrow
so
is very
horny.
Creepy looking.
The
face, it's like
creepy.
I'm like, how do they make that? Like in the early 1900s, how would they make that?
I'm pretty sure that they were deliberately trying to make the scarecrow vaguely resemble the projectionist.
I don't think he looks like the projectionist, but it looks like a person, like a real person.
Yeah, it looks like a wax museum thing, or a dead body that's had a little too much makeup on it or something.
Oh, and it should be how she finds the scarecrows, because the projectionist gives her a piece of the film from the movie. He cuts out a
souvenir,
because you used to be able to do that, and he cut out a single scene from the movie, and he's like, yeah, because nobody's going to notice it, and then it flies out of her pocket, and so she goes into the corner, which I always find this scene funny because I'm like, it wouldn't go that far.
No, absolutely
she
not.
She goes so far. No, just like
no, this is the problem. Pearl just absolutely lives in a weirdo fantasy world.
Yeah,
she has no concept of any sort of reality.
Nope.
She's batshit from the start, and her circumstances only drive her more and more.
I was gonna say, I think her mother does have some culpability in that.
Oh, her mom's fucking awful.
Yeah, it doesn't like help the situation.
Yeah. Like I get that her mom has been dealt a bad hand. Her husband is invalid. She's dealing with her daughter that she seems to actually know is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And her daughter's husband is off fighting a war, and who knows when or if he'll ever come back.
And also he chose to go to that war.
Which later on he chooses to go to World War II, apparently.
I don't think that's true. I believe he gets out of it. The second one he gets out of. The first one he chooses to go to.
No, in X, during the scene where Pearl invites Maxxine in for lemonade, when they're looking at the pictures on the wall, she says, like, that's my Howard. He fought in both.
Does she say both wars?
Yeah. Because
they also mention getting out of war, which is weird because purposely went to this one. He could have gotten out of it and didn't.
Yeah, I think why did they mention that? I mean, seeing as how the first movie would have taken place for a few years, maybe the same year that Vietnam actually
He's
ended.
way too old. He's way too old. That's not the war.
I mean, I just mean, like, maybe that's why it comes up.
I guess he's way too old.
Yeah, but I think the other thing is just sort of pointing out that maybe he actually kind of wants to get away from this crazy old bat.
I think that's why did he want to go in the first place? Though they do, I don't know, they do like talk about how like he wanted to be simple. He didn't like that he was rich.
But also, a lot of Americans did feel obligated to join whatever war was going on.
Not
back
rich
then.
people. Rich people have always gotten out of shit. Because it hasn't really been mentioned yet, but it's going to come up that, like, Howard and his family are well off.
Yeah.
And he chooses to live on the farm and live a simpler life.
Yeah, which does not make Pearl happy. So, Ruth notices that some of the change is missing and berates Pearl while withholding her dinner.
It's also because Pearl says that she had candy. She doesn't admit to going to the theater.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you already ate that.
Probably not the best lie, but also there's not a winning situation there. Probably telling her mom that she bought some candy is better than being like, yeah, I spent hours with dad's medicine at a theater
Sure.
while he's here in the chair and you're working on the farm.
Well, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, but Ruth is also pretty pissed about how much work she's doing that nobody's helping her with.
Yeah.
You know, which is valid.
Sure.
She is still awful.
Yeah.
But the fact that she is terrible does not invalidate a lot of her complaints.
No, I just don't think she's handling it the correct way
Yeah.
if you want change.
So Pearl goes without dinner and goes to bed bummed out again. The next day, or sometime soon.
Yeah, I think it's the next day.
Yeah, I think so too. Mitzi and her mother visit and bring a roast pig with them. Ruth rejects the pig and Mitzi's mom leaves it on the porch, which will become a wonderful symbol that reoccurs throughout the movie of Pearl's degrading mental state.
Yeah. But also, like, I understand pride. Take the goddamn pig.
Yeah.
Shouldn't you care as a poor farmer of things going to waste also? Take the goddamn pig.
And like, for the love of God, nothing else is going your way.
Yeah.
Enjoy a meal that you don't have to cook.
Also,
For
it's
once.
not just random people. It's your now family.
Yeah, Ruth is just the worst.
Pride's a bitch.
Mitzi tells Pearl about auditions for a traveling dance troupe being held in town, and Pearl sees this as her way out. She goes to visit the projectionist again, who shows her a stag film, which is an early porn film.
And it's a real one.
It is a real one.
Yeah.
There weren't a lot of these made from what I looked up.
Well, we don't know because they were illegal. So
No, I mean, when I actually looked up that movie to see if it was real.
No, I know. I'm just saying we'll have no idea how many were actually made because they were illegal.
Oh, yeah,
So they weren't, not many survived that we know of, let alone the ones we don't.
Yeah.
Also, just how like volatile film was back then.
Yeah, that shit could just blow up on you.
Yeah, but it was made between 1915 and 1920.
After showing her the stag film, he encourages her to pursue her dreams of dancing in stardom. Pearl says that she can't abandon her family and wishes they would just die.
Which she's like, what? And she's like, oh, nothing.
Yeah, it kind of gives the projectionist pause, but he does brush it off.
Yeah.
Good move, buddy.
I mean, she could have brushed this off of like, well, I meant my dad's really sick and it'd probably be better off.
Yeah. You know,
He could have.
one of the funny things about this movie is that Pearl barely hides anything.
No,
And
I don't think she's capable of it.
yeah, I don't think so either. She's too involved in her own self to bother.
Yeah. Well, nobody else is also that. So.
Yeah. Her mom's the only one that seems to notice anything is off.
But still
Up
is
to
like
this
never
point.
around. I'm just saying she is left up to her own devices like a lot.
Yeah.
And we never actually see her mother take care of her father. It's always Pearl.
Yeah, we only see that. But I think we can infer that her mom does because we do see her mom doing everything else.
Sure.
And Pearl does nothing.
What? She feeds the barn animals.
She dances for them.
Yeah, she gave him hay at the same time. It's feeding.
Yeah. But, you know, if she can't, like, frolic about while doing it, she's not doing it, you know?
I guess.
I mean, until her mom yells at her.
Yeah.
Pearl then takes her father out to the lake and is kind of psyching herself up to feed him to the alligator.
Yeah.
Her mom finds her at the last moment and admonishes her to bring her father inside.
And you could tell he knows what's going on too. Like again, his eye acting.
Yeah,
he shows that he's terrified.
Yeah, he knows what's up. The actor who played him again just does a killer job with nothing but his eyes and like his breathing. Ruth finds a theater program Pearl has hidden. They get into an extreme argument with Ruth revealing that she knows about Pearl killing animals and saying that she knows that Pearl wants to kill them.
Well, again, she doesn't specifically say the animals. She just says, I know what you do when nobody's looking. But the thing that is here is that's interesting because it could be implied that she also is the reason for her dad, or you could take it because she says you need to be stopped before you hurt someone else.
Oh,
and so
yeah.
it's like, who has she hurt?
Right.
And it's never answered, but it's like, is that a reference to her dad? That she's the reason something happened to him? Or has something else happened that we don't know about?
Or does she just mean escalating from animals to
Maybe,
people?
but
Yeah.
it's still, it's a curious word of phrasing.
It is. It is. And I think what's kind of interesting here, though, is that Ruth, in my opinion, in this scene, she shows kind of where Pearl gets her craziness from
Sure.
a little bit. Because she doesn't just say, I know you want to kill us.
She gives her a knife and was like, do it.
Well, no, she slams the knife into the table, and then when Pearl doesn't grab it immediately, she grabs it and holds it to her own husband's throat. This scene is so good. I feel so bad for the father in this scene.
He's just here in the middle of it, like
he's
terrified.
Just there, terrified, breathing heavily, doing that great eye acting. And not only is he scared that one of them is gonna hurt him, he's listening to his wife berate Pearl.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she's saying is that none of us have the lives that we wanted to have. I didn't want to be his caretaker or his mother. I wanted to be his wife.
Yeah.
And so that's just got to be awful to sit there hearing.
Which is also really great in the scenes of the mom who plays Ruth. She had to be convinced to do this role.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was originally the intimacy coordinator on X.
Huh.
And Ty West really liked her and was like, oh, you should play the mother. And she's like, no, I'm not like an actress. But she also...
Well, she's wrong.
Well, she also didn't know any German and learns German for this movie. And there were several German people on set. And they said if they didn't know that she wasn't German, her accent is like spot on.
Yeah.
And this whole scene is very like, she has an accent, she speaks in German and like keeps like a very realistic like tone.
Yeah.
And like apparently she's like, I'm not an actress and I don't know any German. She learned it just for this.
I seriously, so this is her first acting role?
Yeah.
That's bonkers.
Yeah, she's an intimacy coordinator.
Well, I mean, that is a hell of a jump.
Yeah.
So I guess so first off, I always assumed that this is one of those things where they found like an older actress who is really renowned to do this role because she's so goddamn good.
Yeah.
But also, this does bring up the question, what did she do while coordinating the intimacy that made Ty West think you are going to be the hard-ass mom who's stuck on the farm by herself and just furious all the time?
I didn't see anything specified, but I imagine it's kind of her look. Like, she looks like, I mean, it's hard to tell because acting can really change the way people look.
Yeah.
But she has a hardened, I just stern look.
Yeah, but I mean, just after watching her in this movie, I have a really hard time in my brain imagining her like helping to position two people, and then
that's not technically what intimacy coordinators do.
Well, no, I mean it can be part of what they do to like make sure there's no accidental thrusting in the wrong place, you know?
Well, yeah.
Like they're coordinating the intimacy and making...
Well, they're more making sure that everyone on set is comfortable with what's going on and like the legalities and to making sure that places don't get sued.
You know what? We should bring Katie in here real quick and just ask her to explain intimacy coordination to us.
Do they have like professional intimacy coordinators?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's one of those things where
it's a relatively newer thing.
It is, but my understanding is it's also something that's absolutely required, whether you're union
because again,
or not.
it's part of like not getting sued because you're like they forced me to do such and such.
Yeah. This argument turns violent, and Pearl shoves Ruth against the hearth, igniting her
It's
dress.
violent on Ruth's side too.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not.
She
saying...
instigates this entire thing.
No, again, I think that we learn a lot about why Pearl is like this from this scene.
Yeah,
because Ruth's got a darkness too.
Yeah,
I don't remember who hits who first.
Ruth hits her first.
Yeah.
So
it gets pretty wild, especially when Pearl shoves Ruth against the hearth, igniting her dress and causing extreme burns.
Which Pearl does try to put her out, but part of that is by picking up a boiling pot of corn. But it's the first water you see. I know it's not intentional. I think this whole thing is an accident. Some people think it's not, and I'm like, no. If you watch the scene, it's a moment of like heated argument, then panic.
Yeah. No, I think that she panicked. So I don't think it's on purpose.
Yeah.
What I do think is that somebody who didn't have such violent tendencies or wasn't so preoccupied with just what they want and nothing else,
Sure.
that they might have paid more attention and not shoved somebody directly into a fire.
I don't know. I don't feel like she also shoved her directly into a fire. Through the whole thing, they're getting closer to it. That even doesn't seem like... I'm not defending Pearl, but watching it is like... Even the last time I watched it, I was like, more so. I'm like, no, none of this is like... This is all just an accident of heated thing. She didn't even really shove
No, but what this does do,
but then how she handles it afterwards
this breaks the ice. After this, she's gonna be okay killing people.
See, I don't think so that either. I think the projectionist is. This puts her at a heightened level of emotion, but it's the projectionist that actually like tips her over the edge.
See, I think this is when she becomes okay with that, with the idea of doing that.
Yeah,
like his perceived rejection of her is absolutely where she decides, fine, I'm gonna kill him. But I don't know that would have happened had she not already basically accidentally killed her mom.
But that's what I'm saying. She's at a heightened emotion, which leads to her killing the projectionist. But I think the projectionist is what makes her ends up, which we haven't got to, but end up killing. Because then she also is like, well, fuck it, I'm going to kill my dad.
Yeah. So, after backing it up.
Yeah.
After Ruth is burned, she does not die just yet. Pearl drags her to the basement and basically just leaves her there. She also leaves her father in the kitchen as she goes to the movie theater to have sex with the projectionist. While asleep, Pearl dreams of being in a movie where she can look out into the audience and she sees her parents. Mm-hmm. Was it just her parents?
No, and Howard.
She does see Howard.
And he's all burnt. The mom's burnt, but Howard's all fucked up too.
Okay. But it is the mom who takes off the mask, yes. And we see that like she's missing all the skin on her face. Yeah. It's a wild dream. There's also a few points in the movie where we see Pearl fantasize about Howard just like exploding.
Well, she sees him coming home.
Yeah.
And then blowing up.
Yeah. It's pretty clear to me that she doesn't exactly love Howard.
No, I think she resents him for leaving.
She definitely resents him for leaving.
Because again, he could have stayed if he wanted.
But he didn't. And now everybody must die. But yeah, so she sees her parents and she sees Howard and everybody is burnt and fucked up. And this is kind of like where her mask really starts to slip, because before she was a little bit careless.
Backed up a bit.
Oh no! I mean like now, like at this dream, because before she was a little bit careless, but now she just doesn't bother to hide anything, and she doesn't even bother to think of good explanations for anything if somebody questions her.
Well, it's crazy that she has the projectionist go back to the farm with her.
Right. Like, why would you do this?
Yeah.
You know you are married. You're not running away.
That.
You've got a corpse in your basement.
You know you got the shit going on at home. Why would you bring someone home to it?
Right. And I am going to call a point. I'm going to call a slight pothole here. Mm-hmm. That house should reek of burnt flesh when she brings the projectionist home. Yeah. Which this is literally the first time I thought about that. So, I'll just ruin that for everybody who hasn't thought about it yet. Yeah. Or maybe it's too covered up by the stink of the rotting pig on the front porch.
Yeah, it's still there.
Like, this has just got to be a house of foul odors by now.
Yeah.
So, the next morning, the projectionist drives Pearl home. And as we just mentioned, she brings him inside to meet her father.
She also sees a soldier walking down the path
and clearly wonders if
it could be her husband.
Yeah.
And just continues on.
Just not going to worry about anything other than getting what we want from here on out. So the projectionist does notice and is disturbed by the pig rotting on the front porch. And this is the first time he starts to seem to realize how strange her behavior is, which he should have realized a while ago.
Well, it's escalating.
It is escalating, but also, you know, he was horny.
Sure, but she's more like on edge now.
I mean,
and like,
I mean, who among us has not ignored some big red flags because we just wanted some?
sure.
I've made that mistake. I know you've made that mistake. We've all made that mistake. It's one of those moments where I'm really glad my mom doesn't listen to this. She told me she wasn't going to.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because she's like, I want to support you guys, but you're going to be talking about horror movies. I don't think you're going to be, you know, coy about it.
Yeah.
And I don't need to hear whatever else.
Sure.
So I get it. it. The projectionist does catch Pearl in a lie about the noises that he's hearing in the basement.
Well, she also introduces her dad,
Right.
which is also weird.
Yeah. I mean, that whole thing is weird. The whole situation is weird. But, you know, the point where she really slips is that he hears the noises in the basement and she's like, oh, that's just our dog. And he's like, should you let it out? And she's like, nah. Which, you know what? Even if you don't have a corpse in the basement, if I'm at your house and that's how you're treating the dog, I'm leaving.
Yeah, because I don't think her mom's fully dead yet. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's her mom making the noises.
Yeah. I'm just saying she's not a corpse yet.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The soon-to-be corpse.
Yeah.
After catching her in this lie, he realizes that he is in actual danger. Scared, he tries to leave. And he kind of tries to do it as calmly as he can, but you can tell that he's starting to panic.
Well, even Pearl's like, why did you suddenly change? Because he does.
Yeah.
Like, there is a very, like, sudden change in his, like, demeanor. And he wants to leave.
Yeah.
And she's like screaming at him, like, why did you change?
He's finally connecting the dots that he should have connected quite a while ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, so as he prepares to drive away, Pearl gets him with her favorite weapon, the pitchfork. She pushes his car into the lake, and he is eaten by the gator. Pearl then dresses up for the audition where she meets up with Mitzi and performs her audition in a pretty wild fever dream of a hallucinatory dance number.
Yeah.
The sequence is a lot of fun, but it's also a really good window into just how batshit crazy she's gotten. She performs her dance, does a great job, but she is rejected for not being young enough, all-American enough, or blonde.
Yeah.
She absolutely loses her mind at this and is just inconsolable.
Yeah.
Screaming, crying, sitting outside of the church, screaming and crying. I don't know how anybody else went through with their performance while she's like right on the other side of the wall, like,
yeah. She was told that they were looking for another X Factor.
Yeah. So we'll get into that in a minute, but there's a lot of X's hidden in both of these movies. I think I wrote one in particular down that really caught my eye, but we'll get to that later.
Oh, when she stands on it?
No. It's during her monologue. The shadow from the window frame puts a giant X right behind her.
Oh.
So Mitzi takes her home and tries to console her. This is where Mia Goth unleashes this absolutely incredible 8-minute monologue where Pearl is imagining that she's talking to Howard as she confesses to a wide range of the things that she's done.
Which Mitzi tells her to do.
Yeah.
Because Pearl is like upset and is like, Howard's never gonna love me, and she's like, nah, he's your husband. Like, of course he's gonna love you. Like, practice on me.
Yeah,
what you would say.
Again, Mitzi is such a sweetheart.
Yeah,
and is trying her best to be a good friend to Pearl, who is just batshit insane.
Yeah.
She does tell her to practice on her, obviously thinking that she's just gonna hear about Pearl's frustrations with not getting selected and being on the farm and all of that.
Yeah. It also, like, this monologue seems like Pearl's been, like, planning it for a while.
Maybe. But, I mean, I think this is just the first time that she gets to really let it all out. And it's not just kind of constantly her slipping up because she's too stuck in her world.
Sure.
This is where she gets to unleash it. So she talks about cheating. She talks about killing animals. She does talk about resenting Howard for choosing life on the farm.
And how she didn't really like him at first, but thought that he was her way out.
Yeah, she basically does say she doesn't love him.
No, she says she does love him, but she didn't at first. But she only got with him because she knew he decided to work on the farm, and she could tell that he fancied her, so used her. But she goes to it's not that I don't love Howard. She says that.
Does she say that?
Yeah,
because she says that she knows. I remember her saying she knows that she's lucky to have his affections.
Yeah.
But she doesn't say anything about reciprocating.
She just says that it's not that I don't love him.
But
I think she does have feelings for him, but it all started with this is my way out.
I think that she has as much feelings for him as a psychopath and narcissist who constantly confuses lust, love, sex, love, and attention and love. I think that she probably loves him insofar as she can love, but I don't think she can because she, again, just those are the things that she thinks of as love. Sure. Attention, sex, lust.
Sure. I
don't remember if she says it during the monologue, or if it's during a scene we didn't mention yet. She does eventually say that her mom was right and she needs to just make the best of it, and she's going to look for redemption in making a good home for Howard.
She also mentions that she was pregnant during this monologue and that she was glad when the baby died.
Yeah.
That she hated the feeling of it growing inside of her.
Oh, maybe that's what her mom was referring to.
Maybe if she did it on purpose in some way.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
She delivers this, again, incredible monologue. If you haven't seen this movie, it's worth watching just for this.
Yeah.
She then intimidates a stunned and terrified Mitzi into admitting that her audition went well and she was accepted into the troupe.
A lot of people say that Mitzi did get accepted. I don't think she did. The way the whole thing goes is she's like, no, really, I didn't. And then Pearl won't let it go. And then she goes, fine, I did. I don't think she did get into the troupe.
I think she did.
I don't even kind of think. I think 100%
really?
She did not.
We'll have to watch it.
She constantly, she's
again.
like, she looks confused when Pearl says, you got it. Like, she doesn't look like she's hiding it. She legit looks confused.
So my interpretation is that when Pearl first mentioned it, she was caught off guard. Mm-mm. Like they had already been through this thing and it's not even what she's thinking about anymore.
Yeah.
And then she says, no, really, I didn't get it. I interpret that as her being scared that...
Oh, she's definitely scared, but I don't...
But I think she's afraid that Pearl's going to hurt her if she does get it. And when Pearl is insistent on it, she does just say, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but that's her placating her.
Yeah.
I don't think she got it. Literally, it's not even a question to me. I think it's weird that people think she got it. If you watch the way she's reacting, she seems legitimately baffled. And then it's just like, okay, thanks.
Yeah. I mean, I
gotta go.
I disagree. I think she got it, but and honestly, a part of that isn't even like how they acted, or how she acts it, but she is all American. She is a sweetheart. She is blonde. And she's a very desirable person to have in whatever capacity. But, in the end, it doesn't matter.
No,
because Pearl chases her ass down the driveway and chops her to death with a goddamn axe before chopping her body up and feeding it to the gator. At this point, she lays down next to her dead mother, and this is the first moment of legitimate tenderness we see her show anyone. This is when she decides that she needs to accept her life and resigns herself to making a comfortable home for Howard. And this is going to be how she redeems herself or whatever. Sometime later, Howard returns home and finds the decomposing bodies of Pearl's parents at the dinner table with the rotted pig and a lot of other moldy, rotten food. Pearl greets him, says she's happy that he's home, and holds an anguished, tearful, psychotic smile that lasts for several minutes, basically through the credits. Was it through the whole credits?
For a big part of it. But I don't think it's the entire thing. I know it does go black at some point.
Okay. Yeah, it does go black at some point, but she holds this forever.
Which is really funny about this because this is not a planned thing on like her part. Ty West just refused to call cut.
Yeah, yeah.
And so she really is just like,
well,
and she didn't know.
Well, and he said that they would probably go to freeze frame at some point, but that she should that she should just keep holding it, and he told her to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Which,
well, no, she starts getting actually upset.
Does she?
Yeah, she's like she is like, does it not of frustration? The tears because of her holding her eyes up too long. It's not her like being a great actress at some point. It's literally her just like refusing to let go and having a hard time.
I'm gonna credit this as her being a great actress.
No, sure, but it is that like I said, the tear wasn't intentional.
Yeah,
like there's a point where she is just like shaking her head in frustration because she's just like, I'm not gonna break character.
Call a car.
Yeah.
Yeah, either way,
it's great.
It makes for a stunning visual, and I do like at the very end of the credits, the film score for this dies away, and we get Chelsea Wolfe's intonations from the film score for X, creating a little pathway in time.
I will say, though, this ending scene, to me, does not explain anything. It makes things more confusing. Why the fuck did Howard stay with her? And you go with...
Well, we see what happens to the last guy who tried to leave her.
But then he leaves for the war.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying. So I just don't see how... And people are like, because he felt guilty. And I'm like, really? Also, what I've meant to mention, what's really fucked up is the second time watching it, is that she brings the pig, to the dinner table and resets the table. Mm-hmm. You could tell she's been eating it. It's like
the pig?
Yes. It's cut away down to bone and stuff and not rotted. It's like literally like cut away, which implies she has been like sitting down and eating at this rotting table, pretending like her family's alive. They don't show her eating.
To me, it looks just just rotted.
They have the rotted pig there, but then when they cut back to it and Howard comes in, you could tell it's like cut away.
Gross.
Yeah. Also, what is that picture of green stuff she has? I'm pretty sure it's just rotted milk or something.
Yeah, yeah.
It's this gross picture, but like I said, if you rewatch it when Howard comes in, the pig is clearly like the meat is cut off, not just rotting.
It's wild because it is almost debatable as to whether this is actually a horror movie or not for like the first 2/3. But then by the time you get to this, yeah, it's gone full Texas Chainsaw Massacre at this point.
Sure.
I don't remember if I mentioned this during X, but there is a fun thing in her monologue where she says to fake Howard, "I've always been careful with your heart."
Yeah.
In X.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
He has a bad heart.
Yeah. In X, well, not only does he have a bad heart, but at a certain point, she is just like, I don't care if your heart sucks. Fuck me anyway.
Yeah. But I think that also shows that she actually does care about Howard.
Yeah. Like I said, I think that she cares, and I think that she loves him. I just don't think that what love is to her is
for sure
is the same as what it would be.
Well, also, she's never been shown love.
Right. Yeah, I think that it's kind of understandable that she would be a mess, but maybe, I don't know, not this much of a mess.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, she's clearly fucked up, but like I said, her mom just didn't do her the situation any favors.
I love this movie. I love both of these movies. I am so excited for Maxxxine.
Yeah.
I will say also, the score in this movie is absolutely phenomenal. It was not done by Tyler Bates. I'm really sorry. I don't remember who it actually was done by. Are you looking it up?
No, but again, I was actually reading about the Mitzi thing, and it's purposely left ambiguous. So there's just posts of people arguing about it.
Oh, which Mitzi thing? Whether she won?
Yeah, and it's really funny because it's a bunch of people going, she 100% got it, or she 100% didn't. Well, I think it's purposely left vague.
Probably,
but it is funny
because at the end of the day, it doesn't actually.
No,
matter.
It doesn't matter. But it is funny because in X, Pearl's like, I hate blondes.
Yeah,
that's probably why.
Oh, it's definitely why.
Oh, also I meant to say, in the very beginning credits of the movie, they're panning along Pearl's dresser. And it has like pictures and stuff on it.
And you see the brush
the last picture is the picture that she points to in X to tell Maxxxine, like, I used to be a dancer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, I just need to fucking find who did the fucking music for this. I don't remember. I don't know why I didn't write that down.
Tyler Bates and Tim Williams. And Tyler Bates, the guy that did it in the Maxxxine also. I mean,
he did.
I mean, X.
I thought it was somebody else, but props to Tyler Bates. And who was it? Tim Williams?
Yeah.
Yeah, props to them because they really nailed the sound of a 1940s movie.
Oh, he also did it for Devil's Rejects and Slither.
Yeah. Slither's a good one. We should do that at some point in time.
Yep.
I wouldn't mind doing Devil's Rejects either, although I am one of those rare weirdos who doesn't quite like that one as much as House of a Thousand Corpses. But that is 100% personal taste.
It's fine what you like, but one is clear objectively a better movie.
Oh, Devil's Rejects is definitely a better movie.
Though it also goes off the rail at the end.
It does go off the rails at the end. It's clearly a better movie, but for my personal taste, I just really love the cartoonish ridiculousness of House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah.
So, some fun things. Did we talk about the preacher during X?
Yeah.
How he probably appears during this, or at least his dad.
Appears during Pearl?
Yeah. So there is a preacher in X that we see on the television screen.
You talked about that.
And it's Maxxine's dad is sort of one of the big reveals at the end. One of the ways that we potentially could have figured that out before the big reveal was that they both have this mantra of, I will not accept a life that I don't deserve.
Yeah.
In this movie, while Pearl is in town, there is a street preacher wearing a one of those cardboard like sandwich signs.
You did mention those, yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't able to see this myself because I don't have glasses, but from what I understand, that sign did say, I will not accept a life I don't deserve. So fun similarities and callbacks and all of that between the movie. Maxxine does a lot of coke. Yeah. And Pearl seems to enjoy taking sips of her dad's morphine.
Yeah.
Pearl does the shh thing, and it'll be our secret multiple times in each movie. In X, when they are getting ready to film Maxxine's sex scene, it starts with her milking a cow. Pearl is milking a cow when her sister-in-law, Mitzi, appears for the first time, which in both cases seems to be like a point where things start to shift in the movies. In both movies, there is somebody who is saying that porn is going to revolutionize the entertainment industry and the film industry, and people will pay an arm and a leg for this, and it'll tie in with art, culture, cinema. Yeah. In both movies, somebody mentions something about, I believe, France specifically, and the artsy films that are being done there, which for the projectionist, you know, I guess he considers the stag films high art. Yeah. which is pretty great. But, you know, in some ways, he has a lot in common with a lot of the characters in X in that way. He's kind of like a handsomer, less stupid RJ. Right. Both include a scene about porn showing a reality that we all share but are unwilling to talk about. What the fuck does that mean? Why did I write that? Oh, okay. All right. I get it. There is a scene in each where somebody talks about how porn movies show something more realistic about being human that nobody wants to address in public, which is just sex and sexuality. Sure. In both movies, somebody says, life rarely turns out how you expect. And then, as you mentioned, in X, Pearl says, you know I hate blondes. Mm-hmm. In Pearl, she doesn't get the part because they want somebody younger and blonde. And whether her sister-in-law gets the part or not, she believes that she did and lost the part to her sister-in-law, which is also kind of crazy because you know what? If I didn't get positive feedback and I went and like pitched a fucking fit like that outside, I would assume that they are not going to give me a call if they don't find somebody in this town, which they were looking for somebody from this town, you know?
Well, they were going around every town.
I mean, they were, but you know what? Sometimes you tell somebody that you're not like into what they're doing and then you don't find anything better.
Yeah, sure.
So her chances at that point were very slim, but what chances she had, she blew by just having a conniption. In X, Maxxine says a line, I've got better places to be than where I come from, which is the entire theme of Pearl. Yeah. So we see the dolls, hairbrush, wheelchair, and pictures in both movies. I think that the choice of having Pearl's primary weapon, and I know it's not her only weapon, but her primary weapon being the pitchfork, because even in like her batshit psychotic behavior, she can't escape being a farm girl.
Sure. Well, even when she kills Mitzi too, she uses an axe, which it's not easy to throw an axe.
Yeah.
If you ever actually tried to chop wood, it's difficult.
That scene to me is horrifying, but it's also like really fun watching Mitzi try to maintain her composure for this long.
Yeah.
Even when she sees that Pearl is coming at her with an axe.
Yeah.
Like there is a few seconds where she's still trying to be cool about it before she starts running.
Well, it's like, you don't run from a bear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't show them
if
your fear, then they'll start running after you.
Yeah. Especially if your choice is hanging out with a bear, hanging out with a strange man in the woods, apparently.
Don't want to talk about that.
No. I
It's out of control.
It is out of control. Also hilarious.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to cut that part out. And actually, I'm going to cut that for real. That's going to be the first thing that we've said we're going to cut that I'm legitimately going to cut. I'll just leave it at the bear.
I will not participate in this.
Yeah, we're not going to drag Streaming Screams into this debate here. Jessica, why don't you tell us where people can watch Pearl?
With the subscription, you can watch it Paramount Plus, and then anywhere that you can add Showtime onto will also have it. And then for free, it's Fubo and Hoopla.
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 Yeah, I don't know what the hell Hoopla
There's
is.
so many free or there's just too many streaming services.
There are too many streaming services, and it's a real bummer because a lot of the streaming services are going downhill. I know that we just had an episode where we sang Shudder's praises, and now I'm going to be like, well, you know what? They did really change the format of The Last Drive-In recently, and I know Darcy and Joe Bob have been like saying like, no, it's a cool thing, but I don't know. They also said it wasn't either of their choice.
Yeah.
Once a service starts really messing with what they do, I find it usually isn't for the better.
Yeah, I don't find the Joe Bob thing to be a problem.
I mean, I liked having the two movies. But...
yeah, I think the two movies is fine, but this also means that it's running for longer, so it's on there long. Like you have a season for longer instead of it just being a really quick thing and then gone. You're just spreading it out. You're not actually cutting down on anything.
What I don't like about having the single movies is that there was a format in the first few seasons where you would get kind of the silly, flashy, or whatever movie first, and then you'd get something that was older, artsier, usually a giallo movie of some sort second. I don't feel like that's going to really happen anymore. I feel like we're not going to get those serious or older movies as much. Like I could not imagine them showing, and I didn't like this movie, but just as an example, Anthropophagus. You know the one.
Sure.
the one where the dude pulls out the chick's uterus with the baby still inside or something like that. Or no, the embryonic sac, whatever.
Yeah.
I could not imagine them showing it as in this single movie format.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe they'll hit me with something really Italian and fucked up at some point.
Yeah.
But so far I don't know. I just liked it the way it was before. I'm going to be old and cranky and just wish that it stayed the same.
Sure. Okay. So you can also rent or buy this movie on Apple TV, Google Play, YouTube, Prime, Vudu, Microsoft, and Spectrum.
Would you recommend this movie?
Yeah, I love both these movies.
Yeah, I adore them. I cannot wait for Maxxxine. Like I said in the first half of this session, I think X might be my favorite movie currently. Everything about it is just so perfect, in my opinion. Particularly the delicate balance of, high quality filmmaking and acting and directing, and just the absolute sleaze of it. Fucking love that.
Yeah.
And Pearl makes a wonderful companion piece to it.
And you don't have to watch either of them to get the other.
Yeah, you kind of don't. They complement each other very well, but no, they are not necessary. One of them is not necessary for the other.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty rare feat. All right. Now, as a little bonus, let's take a step back and take a break to check out the Maxxxine trailer, and then we're going to come back and talk about it.
Thank you for listening to...
All right, then. On to the next part of the show. Bonus segment time. The trailer for Maxxxine. According to the internet, it's written and directed by Ty West, which I assume is correct. I don't know if Mia Goth had any involvement in the writing of this one.
I would assume it would say that if that were the case.
I mean, honestly, I didn't even know that she helped write Pearl until...
Because they were in quarantine, they fleshed it all out while they were like through Skype.
Yeah.
Or whatever they were using at the time, Zoom.
Everybody was using Zoom.
Skype really fucked that one up.
What was that?
Just that Skype was like the huge thing, and then there's a pandemic where everyone's using video call, and somehow they're not the ones.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah.
Anyway, so obviously, since all we've got is the trailer, we don't have full details on everything yet. But we do know that the cast features Mia Goth returning as Maxxxine Minx from the first movie, X. We've got Kevin Bacon as a private eye who seems to have been hired to investigate or find her. We've got Elizabeth Debicki. We've got Moses Sumney. We've got Michelle Monaghan. We've got Bobby Cannavale. We've got Lily Collins. We've got Halsey, which is interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too.
And we've got...
Has she acted in anything else?
I don't think she has.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
I could be... But to be fair, she really did not appear on my radar at all until Nine Inch Nails got involved. And I do genuinely love that album.
Yeah.
I've listened to some of her previous work since that album came out, and it is... I'm not super into it. You can tell that she's really good at what she does.
Yeah.
But I personally think that reaching out to Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross to produce If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power was a really good move on her part, because that album is great.
So the other guy is Giancarlo Esposito?
Giancarlo Esposito.
That's the chicken man from Breaking Bad.
Okay, so that's Gus Fring. I don't know why. That's like the one name that I really remember easily from Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Besides, I'm not like great with names in the first place.
I'm always like, is the chicken man?
Like I know Walter White, I know Sky, and I know
I don't know who Sky is.
Walter White's wife.
Oh.
Skylar. No, see, you know what?
Yep.
Didn't even get that right. And then Jesse.
Yep.
I forget what the brother-in-law's name is.
No idea.
The one who dies.
Jesse's
at the end.
Girlfriend was, I think, Jane.
Yeah, I think so too.
Whatever.
Oh, that's gonna drive me nuts that I can't remember that one dude's name. Hank.
Hank. Yes, it is Hank. Yeah.
You know how I was able to finally pull that memory up in my head? Is I remembered that he was brewing his own beer and it had a label with his name on it. This movie is going to take place in 1985. We start the trailer with an audition where it seems like we get a touch of judgmentalism from the person who's doing the audition, but Maxxxine is highly confident, almost abrasive in her response back. It does kind of look like the audition might be a bit of a callback to her monologue. Just the way that they set it up with the person running the audition says something along the lines of, she looks directly into the camera and through her trauma, she says, and then it does show Mia Goth doing that sort of head down closed eye thing that I believe she did before launching into that monologue.
Yeah.
Then we see a montage of news clips and discussion about the Night Stalker, who is, of course, Richard Ramirez. Wait, why am I the one saying that? Jessica, tell us who the Night Stalker is.
You just did, Richard Ramirez.
Well, give us some background on him.
Come
on now. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but you're the resident true crime one here.
I mean, he's, a guy that, killed a lot of people, and he didn't have, unlike most people, he didn't have a what would they call it, like a typical MO. Like, he killed old people, he killed men, he killed women, he killed, and he had like a satanic thing, and he did different stuff like every time. He was a disgusting man, and people think he's hot.
Why are so many people just attracted to murderers for some reason?
Well, he does have really nice hair.
Oh no, he's you know what? He is a handsome man.
What?
Or he was a handsome
His
man.
teeth were rotting out of his head.
Well, I don't think I've ever seen pictures of his teeth.
He was disgusting.
I've only seen mug shots and all that.
He was disgusting. But
Okay.
he's the one that has the famous picture of having a pentagram drawn on his hand in court.
Yeah. What I'm really curious about though is how the Night Stalker is going to play into this movie.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, are they going to imply that the real Night Stalker is Maxxine?
I don't think so at all.
Or are they going to make Richard Ramirez an actual character in this movie?
I hope not.
I hope not too.
I think it's more likely that Maxine's going to be able to cover up murders because of it. That's my guess.
Yeah, I was thinking something similar. I was thinking that this might be like a Summer of Sam situation. That movie where the Son of Sam killer is like a major part of the plot, but
he's not
isn't
in it.
in the movie.
Yeah.
He's just sort of the backdrop. And
Yeah.
I think in that they did use him to cover up something, didn't they?
It's been so long since I've seen that movie.
Yeah. Somebody sound off in some comments or send us a message and let us know about that one, will you?
And have John Leguizamo. That's all I remember. He's in it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's I'm curious to see what they do with the Night Stalker and how it relates. And I'm also really curious to see what happens with Maxxine. Because as we talked about earlier, she does show a lot of similarities to Pearl, to the point where when Pearl gives the "we're not so different, you and I" speech, which is usually a trope where the hero or the protagonist makes a decision that sets them apart.
Yeah.
In this case, Maxxine basically does exactly what Pearl would do and just kills her.
It seems too that this movie is going to be more directly connected to where you probably have to watch X to get things.
Yeah.
Because they've already, like, in the trailer reference her past.
And you see there's a shot where they show the Bates Motel at Universal Studios, and you can see the specter of old Pearl standing in the window up there.
Yeah. But they show in the trailer, too, them putting in an evidence tape, which is that the tape from X that they find at the end.
The fucked up horror show.
Well, it's really just a porn, though.
Yeah,
but it would tie her directly to those crimes because she's on it.
Well, the summaries that I've read so far do state that she's the lone survivor of that massacre. So I think that it's already known. Like she's already tied to all those people.
Yeah.
You know,
but
her,
that tape
her
could
boyfriend / boss / movie producer was one of them.
But that could be an evidence tape from something else that happens in Maxxine.
Yeah,
we don't actually know.
I'm also curious to see, is Maxxine going to be the killer in this, or is she getting stalked by a killer? Is the killer the Night Stalker? Is it related, or is it totally unrelated?
Yeah. I don't think he actually went after prostitutes though. Maybe.
Is she a prostitute in this?
Well, but she's a sex worker.
I mean, she is a sex worker, but I mean, the impression that I got from the trailer is that she's moving from porn to actual film.
Yes.
So I don't.
Just there's scenes when she's with Halsey, how they're dressed walking down the street.
Oh yeah.
They could be mistaken for.
Yes. And I think that that's sort of deliberate. That scene actually really struck me as a callback to some of the big city giallo movies that we had in the 80s, things like the New York Ripper, or I know this isn't a giallo, which the New York Ripper, we should talk about that. That was a really fascinating movie, and how stupid the killer was.
Yeah.
His fucking Donald Duck voice. But yeah, it does remind me of the New York Ripper. It also makes me think of Angel and Taxi Driver and just a lot of those gritty, seedy dramas that take place in New York, even though this is taking place in LA.
Yeah.
It does look to me like this is going to be basically the giallo movie in the series. Yeah. Which I'm stoked about. I love a good giallo. I'm really curious to see what Ty West and Mia Goth can do with that genre. Because they nailed the Grindhouse thing with X. They nailed the demented Wizard of Oz thing with Pearl. Yeah. So I'm curious to see what they do with this. And I'm also curious to see if they end up keeping the series going after this.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like they are killing it. And I feel like there's a lot of other genres that they could make films in this series that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
I also did notice that there is a scene where we see another actress dressed up in sort of like a Puritan outfit, something that somebody would have worn before Pearl's time.
Yeah.
And she has blood on the lower half of her face, basically in the exact same positioning as Pearl's mom's face was burned off in her dream.
Yeah. It looks like a movie set, definitely.
Oh, it's definitely on a movie set.
Yeah.
I'm just noticing this last time that we watched it just now, I noticed a lot of what I think are going to be callbacks and similar shots.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited for it. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, I think it looks excellent. It looks like it might be the best one. We'll see.
Yeah, I think so too.
And it's got a lot of big name actors where the other ones didn't.
Kevin fucking Bacon. I think that's about it for this episode, unless you've got more you want to add.
Well,
Cool.
I'm excited for it. Looks good.
Yeah. Go see both of these movies if you haven't. They're fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic. If you're listening to this on a platform that has comments, let us know what you think about the trailer for Maxxxine. And if not, go to our Facebook or our social media or Instagram or something and tell us there.
Yeah.
It would be great to know how other people are looking at this, because I think it looks fucking great.
Yeah, looks excellent.
I think that's going to do it for this episode. See you later.
Bye.